So Chris, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Appreciate you coming in. Tell us how you ended up at Hardin-Simmons.
Oh, that's quite a, it was a long road to get here. And I grew up in Fort Worth, and I worked for a manufacturing company for about 20 years. While I worked there, I was a quality assurance engineer and ended up as a quality assurance manager for the company, sit on the inner circle. But also, I took care of the company network, which at that time was a big PC LAN network from IBM. Like Debbie said in her little interview, she was coming out here from Houston. The company got bought, moved to Houston. We stayed in Houston for 4 years. She was coming out here all the time, and it was wearing us out. And she found the house in Merkel, and it was like, I think somebody wants us to be somewhere else. So we ended up moving out here, and I went to work for a company called Action Telecom that used to live in, they're now Vexus is the name of the company now. Anyway, I went to work for them building Unix systems. I went from this highfalutin job to just making 12 bucks an hour because it's just like time for a simple life. And I worked for Action for about 9 months, and I saw an ad in the paper for for Hardin-Simmons that had the word Unidata in it. Well, I wrote a lot of programs when I worked for manufacturing on a microdata PIC system, which is the granddaddy of Unidata. So I came out here and interviewed with Terry Bratton, who was the CIO at that particular time, and Deborah Gillette, who was his first in command, running all the systems, the colleague system. And we sat down for an interview, and when I told them that I knew Unidata and done programming in the same system that, and had experience with Unix, which is what the system was running on, the current colleague system we still have, it was like, in Abilene, Texas?
How did that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, you start looking backwards, you see the path was just laid out there. I just walked down it, that's all.
So speaking of path, the path that you've taken, you've been here a total of how many years?
24 years.
A lot of paths have changed in IT in 24 years. How do you keep up with IT?
You just don't sit still. I guess I'm more lucky than some older people that have been in the profession because I never thought about being stuck in the mud or stuck on a particular different thing.
You and Debbie both are in the IT world. When you get home, do you guys talk about that, or is it, we can't talk about this, we got to talk about anything else but this?
You guys get 24/7 service out of the Kellys here.
We appreciate that. Thank you for both of y'all.
Last night we're doing trick or treat, and I'm updating Wi-Fi access points in between trick or treaters. So she has a problem with, I used to be, when I first got here, I was actually colleague management and ran the system like she's doing now. So we have a lot of stuff in common, and I also run the ID card system, which does, the colleague does a lot of automation downloads for that. So we have to work together because she writes the programs for that and I run the other system. So we're on 24/7.
How did y'all meet?
While I was working at Westtronics in Fort Worth, a friend of mine went to work for Allied Auto Supply. And he calls me one day and he said, "You ought to come to work for me." And I'm like, "Why?" He said, "Because you get a really good discount on parts and I know you break parts." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So I went to work for this guy. His name was Roy. I can't remember his last name. Anyway, so I go to work for him, and within 2 weeks I have a key to the store, and my part-time job is 6 to 9 every night except Tuesday night, 10 to 9 on Saturdays, open the store on Sundays and close the store and run the books on Saturday night and on Sunday night. So it's just like, so one day I'm working and this girl comes in and she has a problem with her car. So I go out to the parking lot, and it's a Pinto. It's a 74 Ford Pinto.
Sweet.
It's about 3 colors, and it's leaking gasoline all over the parking lot.
No.
Yeah, the fuel line that goes to the fuel pump was broke. So I run inside and get some fuel line. We fix it. "How much do I owe you?" "Don't worry about it." She leaves. She comes by. I think, you know, she's pretty cute. Anyway, so she comes back, and her fan belts had rolled over and her battery was dead.
I think
So
she's
we
doing
fixed her.
something. I think she's doing something to her car just to get with you, just to get up with you and
I don't know.
find out what
Yeah,
your name
so
is, get your number.
She made 3 trips back, sold her battery, fixed her belts, and then I asked her out. And I took her and our daughter Tony, who was about 2 at the time, to Poncho's for our first day.
If there was one thing you could do every day for the rest of your life, what would that be?
I have a lot of fun doing what I'm doing now, but yeah, I would probably be the itinerant deer drag racer. We've got a really nice trailer with a bath package so we can camp out at the drag strips, and we just go around and race with our friends, which is a lot of what they do. People have been going all over the place this year.
I asked your wife how fast she'd been. What's the fastest she's been? What's the fastest you've been?
126
Oh
in
my
the
gosh.
8th.
Well, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.